Henry, who spent many years serving in the U.S. military. After returning to his hometown, he hopes to begin a new life as a teacher. With this goal in mind, he visits his old school, Takchi Secondary, and meets the principal to ask for a teaching position. The principal explains that Henry has no teaching experience and offers him a reference letter to apply elsewhere. At that moment, Henry calmly takes another letter from his bag. When the principal reads it, his expression changes. It is a powerful recommendation from high-ranking officials. Surprised and impressed, the principal finally agrees to hire him. On the morning of his first day, Henry steps out of his house, prepared to face his new role. Along the way, the story cuts to two boys fighting over a laptop in their room. Their argument quickly turns into a struggle until their father suddenly wakes up. Shocked and scared, the boys rush to get ready and leave for school. Meanwhile, Henry is shown calmly cleaning his room and making final preparations for the day. The scene also introduces another boy who is on his way to deliver something. Once Henry is fully prepared, he sets off for school. At the same time, a girl storms out of her house after arguing with her parents about money. They give financial support to her brother, but refuse to help her. The story then shifts to a poor boy leaving his home, counting his small amount of money and worrying about how he will pay his rent. Soon after, Henry finally arrives at Takchi Secondary School, where two teachers are shown teaching their senior and junior classes. When Henry enters his assigned classroom, he is met with complete chaos. Some students are fast asleep, others are loudly singing, a few are playing video games, and several are casually cooking ramen on small portable stoves. Even as Henry walks into the room, no one pays attention to him. The students continue doing whatever they want, unaware that their new teacher has already arrived. Henry tries to get the students' attention, but they pretend not to hear him. Instead of forcing control, he gives up and slowly walks around the classroom, calmly commenting on whatever he sees. He advises the students cooking ramen to eat less of it, warning them that it contains too much salt. He then stops beside a student named Zufa, who is playing the ukulele, and gently helps him improve his playing. Next, he looks at a gamer and warns him about the dangers of staring at a screen all day. Though, if that danger is real, it may already be too late for all of them. Gradually, the students begin to pay attention. Henry introduces himself and writes his name and phone number on the board. The class bursts into laughter at his terrible handwriting. One student even shouts at him to leave, but Henry simply laughs and does not take it seriously. Soon enough, the class slips back into its usual chaos. Finally losing his patience, Henry uses a rubber band and a piece of chalk to trigger the fire sprinkler. Water sprays across the room, and the students rush to avoid getting soaked. At last, he has their full attention. Standing calmly in front of the class, Henry officially welcomes them to his classroom. After class, the 5 lowest-ranking students gather in the sports equipment room to smoke. They talk about their new teacher, Henry, and argue about what they should do next, since he has already started causing them trouble. Elsewhere, a female teacher named Mia addresses her class, scolding them for their poor marks and urging them to study harder. In her class, a student named Jen stands out, having scored the highest marks. Back in the supply room, the group's leader, Jack, secretly admires Jen. When the others catch him staring at her photo, they tease him mercilessly. The group also shares a long-standing rivalry with the school's rich and arrogant basketball team. Soon, the basketball players enter the room and begin mocking Jack, as they always do because he is poor. Tension rises, and a fight nearly breaks out, but the basketball team eventually leaves for practice. Jack and his friends watch the practice from a distance. Jack spots Jen standing nearby and tries to get her attention. When the basketball players begin aiming balls in her direction, Jack throws a bottle onto the court. Their leader slips and crashes to the ground, making the group burst into laughter. However, their fun is short-lived. They are caught by their English teacher, Ms. Liang, and given detention. Panicking, they quickly come up with a plan. They play a prank on Ms. Liang and manage to escape while she is distracted. Meanwhile, the school principal grows increasingly worried. Officials from the education board are scheduled to inspect the school, and there are rumors that they plan to cut nearly 20% of the school's yearly funding after reviewing how the money is being used. At the same time, Henry walks into another classroom, unaware that the students have set a trap for him. A bucket of water is balanced above the door, ready to fall the moment he steps inside. However, Henry's reflexes are faster than the bucket. He quickly pushes it aside before it can spill. The students, who were waiting to laugh at him, are left stunned. Henry then makes an unusual offer. He tells the class that if they can correctly answer 3 questions, they will be allowed to play football in the gaming room. The students laugh and refuse to believe him, but Henry calmly insists that he means exactly what he says. Knowing Jack smokes, Henry asks him for his pack of cigarettes. Curious and unsure of Henry's plan, Jack hands it over without protest. Henry then asks Zuffa to name the 3 main ingredients in a cigarette. When Zuffa answers correctly, Henry immediately allows him to leave class for the rest of the day. The room explodes with noise as the other students bang on their desks, demanding the same reward. The school authorities watching nearby are shocked, and the principal becomes tense, unsure how to react. Once the room finally quiets down, Henry hands each student a cigarette and asks them to study it carefully. Instead of giving a typical lecture about health risks, he explains what cigarettes are actually made of. He describes how tar builds up inside the lungs and what smoking does to the human body. For the first time, the students listen closely and show real interest in the lesson. Henry then reveals that the 6 largest tobacco companies in the world earn nearly $35 billion US. The students are stunned by the number. He continues sharing more unexpected facts, pushing them to think deeper. One student casually remarks that dying does not seem so bad. Henry calmly replies that dying may not be the worst thing, but dying without knowing the reason behind it is far worse. As Henry moves from science to economics and then to philosophy, some students grow confused and struggle to keep up. Sensing this, Henry explains that he is training them to question their judgments and think more carefully. He tells them that the sharper their thinking becomes, the more powerful they will be. The scene then cuts to a meeting between the school officials and the principal. The officials question why the number of students in the class is so low. According to the Education Board's standards, the situation is serious. If it does not improve, the class will be shut down, which could eventually lead to the school closing altogether. The principal asks if there is any possible solution, but the officials simply wish him luck and leave the office. After class, Henry asks the students to return the cigarettes. The students hesitate, clearly unwilling to give them back. Later, in the cafeteria, the captain of the basketball team notices Jack and his friends. On purpose, he corners their friend Bruce, creating confusion and tension. An argument breaks out between the 2 groups. When the team leader starts mocking their looks, the argument quickly turns violent. Food trays fly across the room, tables are overturned, and students begin fighting. By the end, the cafeteria is left badly damaged. Later that day, Henry returns to school to meet the principal. The principal informs him that 5 students from his class have been temporarily suspended for starting the cafeteria fight with the basketball team. Hearing this, Henry rushes toward the classroom but instead finds Jack fighting another student in the hallway. He immediately steps in and breaks them apart. When Henry asks Jack to calm down, Jack explodes in anger. He blames the school for being unfair, saying that rich students are never punished while poor students like him and his friends always face the consequences. He is furious that only they were suspended while the wealthy students walked away without punishment. Henry listens carefully before responding. He tells them that if they truly want to stand on the same level as the rich students, they must conquer the classroom by studying harder and becoming stronger through knowledge. He then hands them repentance letters he collected after speaking with the principal. Henry explains that these letters could give them another chance to stay in school. He asks everyone to return to their classes and questions whether they are not tired of watching the same fights happen again and again. Jack's friends quietly accept the letters and slowly walk away. Jack, however, refuses to take one. He stands there in silence, his anger still burning. Later, Henry notices Jack leaving the school quietly through a window, slipping away without taking the repentance letter. That night, Henry stays back at school and carefully studies the files of all 5 suspended students, trying to understand them better. Miss Long is surprised by how much effort Henry is putting in. She enters the room and joins him as they go through the files together. The first file they open belongs to a student named Zuffa, also known as Fayan, who is from Karachi, Pakistan. Although Zuffa's family is from Karachi, he was actually born in Hong Kong, making him a Hong Konger. His father comes from Karachi. From a very young age, Zuffa loved singing. He still remembers taking part in a singing contest as a child. Instead of encouragement, he was met with laughter because his Chinese pronunciation was not clear. People saw him as different, and some even judged him harshly, calling him a terrorist simply because of his skin color. Zuffa dreams of becoming a cantopop singer, believing that music might finally help people accept him for who he truly is. The second student is a girl named Danan. From the day she was born, her father was disappointed because he had always wanted a son. Throughout her life, Danan tried her best to earn his respect. She cut her hair short like a boy, played the same games as her brother, and forced herself to fit his expectations. Still, no one ever noticed her feelings. While her father continued to ignore her and treated her younger brother like royalty, Danan held tightly to her own dream, to become a Formula One racer. Next are the brothers, Bruce and Chris. Chris is deeply attached to video games. When the brothers were 8 years old, their mother left them for another man. The boys cried, believing she would never return, but their father responded with anger and alcohol. He shouted at them and drank heavily, leaving the children to deal with their pain alone. Because of this, Chris and Bruce escaped into video games, a world where they could restart again and again, no matter how many times they failed. While Chris lost himself in gaming, Bruce worked long hours at a grocery store to help support the family. Lastly, Henry searches for information about Jack but finds nothing about his family background. In the following scene, Henry speaks with the principal and argues that even when students make mistakes, they should not be detained. He believes the school's responsibility is to guide them, not punish them. The principal explains that every year, the education board evaluates the school's funding. According to their standards, students must do more than simply attend class. They must produce strong exam results to keep the funding secure. Henry challenges this thinking, asking what will happen if teachers focus only on the top 20% of students. As educators, he says, they have a duty to support the remaining 80% as well. The principal grows frustrated with Henry's ideas. He explains that in today's world, everything depends on exam scores, and he has no choice but to follow these rules. Henry remains unsatisfied. He questions whether such an unfair system should really be followed at all. If the goal is true education, he says, teachers must teach based on their own beliefs. That, he insists, should be the school's real motto. The next day, Jack does not show up at school. Instead, the story reveals him working as a waiter in a hotel. Nearby, an MMA fighter named Jian Ying arrives with his business partner. Jack pays little attention at first, but then overhears them discussing plans to buy Takchi Secondary School and turn the land into a development project. The moment Jack realizes the school may be taken over, anger flashes across his face. Jack secretly slips Jian Ying's expensive lighter into his pocket. Later, Jian Ying realizes the lighter is missing and immediately grows suspicious. He sends his men after Jack. They catch him, and Jian Ying beats him badly for stealing. After checking Jack's ID and discovering that he is still a student, Jian Ying's attitude suddenly changes. Instead of continuing the punishment, he gives Jack some money and offers him a job as a food delivery worker. Soon after, Henry visits Zufa's home and speaks with his mother, hoping to learn more about him. She tells Henry that she has no idea where Zufa has gone. When Henry steps outside to search for him, he spots Zufa running away from his father and his friends after stealing a ticket. Realizing Zufa is in danger, Henry rushes in and helps him escape. Once Henry learns the true reason behind Zufa's actions, he surprisingly takes the father's side and tries to help Zufa understand his situation. Later, Henry and Zufa spend time together near a bridge. Henry encourages him to chase his dream of becoming a singer, but Zufa believes Henry is mocking him. To prove he is serious, Henry joins a street band and begins to sing. After a brief hesitation, Zufa gathers his courage and joins Henry, singing in front of a crowd for the first time since being bullied during his school years. The crowd responds with praise and applause, filling Zufa with real happiness. The story then shifts to Bruce and Chris at home, quietly doing their chores. Their father returns late, as he usually does, and opens a beer. When he goes to get another and finds none left, he orders his sons to buy one from the store. When the brothers refuse, he becomes furious and throws them out of the house, telling them never to return. The next day, Henry visits Bruce and Chris's father and manages to convince him to enter rehabilitation for the sake of his sons. At the same time, Donnan is shown spending time with her brother, working and laughing together. Their moment is interrupted when their father enters the room and hands Donnan something. She looks at it and angrily throws it away. It is makeup. Her father orders her to use it and tells her to act like a girl for once. Hearing this, Donnan explodes with anger. For years, he has made her feel like she is never good enough. The truth soon comes out. He wants her to prepare for a lunch meeting the next day because he is trying to arrange her marriage. When Donnan refuses, her father starts shouting at her and curses her harshly. Donnan finally snaps. Years of being told she is useless and never good enough come rushing out in anger. To mock her father, she puts the makeup on her younger brother instead. Then, without anyone noticing, she grabs the car keys and storms out of the house. When her father realizes what she has done and sees her about to drive away, his anger explodes. Henry reaches her just in time and stops her on the road. He tells Donnan that what she is doing is wrong. He knows she must have taken the car without permission because her father would never allow her to drive. He also reminds her that driving without a license is illegal. When Donnan breaks down and admits that she has always wanted to drive, Henry offers her another choice. He takes her to a Formula One racetrack and asks her to try racing there instead. To Donnan's shock, her opponent at the track turns out to be her own father. Henry has invited both of them. Her father makes a deal with her. If Danan wins the race, she will be free to choose her own path in life. But if she loses, she must agree to get married after finishing university, with no more arguments. Feeling confident and excited, Danan believes she will easily win. The race begins, and the lead keeps changing. Sometimes Danan pulls ahead, and sometimes her father catches up. In the end, Danan crosses the finish line first. She celebrates like a champion and proudly asks her father what he has to say now. Her father responds calmly. He tells her to drive out of the track area, reminding her that real roads and real traffic are far more dangerous than a racetrack. Hearing this, Danan suddenly drives her go-kart onto the main road. Her father immediately follows her. Although Danan is far ahead, her reckless driving causes panic among people around her. At one point, the two collide and stop, breaking into a heated argument and blaming each other. Her father tries to explain that she is wrong this time, but Danan refuses to listen. She screams at him to leave her alone and speeds off again, determined to prove she is the better driver. Her father desperately tries to stop her, but she refuses to slow down or look back. On the other side, Henry jumps into another go-kart and races after them, trying to stop the situation from getting worse. During the chase, Danan's father gets distracted and crashes, injuring himself. At the same time, Danan narrowly avoids being hit by a speeding truck. She manages to dodge it at the last second. Seeing this from a distance, her father believes she has been killed. He breaks down in tears, realizing that he never got the chance to say what he truly felt. In that moment, he understands that he does love his daughter deeply and that he has never meant to hurt her. Suddenly, Danan steps out and asks her father why he is crying. When he realizes she is alive, relief floods over him. Even though he is injured, he pulls her into a tight hug. Just then, Henry arrives and checks to make sure everyone is safe. Henry tells them that winning or losing does not matter because in the end, they are still family. Hearing this, both Danan and her father smile. Danan then asks if she now has the freedom to choose her own path. Her father agrees without hesitation. Henry quickly adds that he will not pay for the damages and reminds them that the crashed vehicles still need to be paid for. Both Danan and her father are shocked. Henry laughs and says he will cover the cost only if her father promises not to take Danan's credit card. Danan laughs happily and runs back toward the go-kart, leaving Henry standing with her father. Watching her from a distance, Danan's father tries to run after her but quickly runs out of breath. Henry laughs and tells him that since she is his daughter, he should at least try to keep up. Hearing this, both men begin running after Danan together. The next day at school, Bruce and Chris, along with a group of students, are taken to a rehabilitation center to interview a recovering alcoholic. To their shock, the person they are meant to interview turns out to be their own father. The students begin by asking Mr. Kuwan how many people are in his family and how he started drinking. He explains that he once had a wife and 2 sons, but his wife ran away with another man. Broken by her leaving him at the lowest point of his life, he turned to alcohol. Over time, drinking became a daily habit, and he slowly forgot that he still had 2 sons who needed him. That is why Mr. Kuwan came to the rehabilitation center. He did not want to lose his sons as well. Hearing this, Bruce and Chris are shocked. They then ask what Mr. Kuwan would like to say to his sons. He admits that he does not know how to speak to them. He had planned to wait until they were older to explain the truth about their mother. Even now, he says, he still does not know how to talk to them. But if he were given the chance, Mr. Kuwan says he would tell them that he truly loves them and that he is deeply sorry. As he says this, he begins to cry. Bruce, Chris, and the other students are overwhelmed with emotion and start crying as well, remembering how their father used to sleep while they cried as children. The room fills with emotion as father and sons finally break down together. Meanwhile, Henry looks at a photo of Bruce, Chris, and their father on his laptop. He smiles quietly, relieved that his plan to help them has finally worked. The story then shifts to Jack, who has begun working for the MMA fighter Jian Ying. Jack serves him and carries out every task he is given. One of the workers asks Jack to bring Jian Ying a drink. When Jack hands him a cup of coffee, Jian Ying asks why he is not attending college and where he has been spending his time. The two begin a serious conversation. Jian Ying then tells Jack that he needs to train and improve himself. He introduces Jack to a boxer but explains that the man is actually a broker who was paid to lose a match. Jian Ying asks Jack if he is smart enough to understand what needs to be done. Jack is confused at first, but then one of Jian Ying's workers hands him something and tells him to mix it into the boxer's drink. Worried, Jack asks what the substance is, afraid that it might be something deadly. The worker reassures him, saying it is nothing dangerous, and even tells Jack to try a small amount himself if he feels nervous. Meanwhile, Henry visits Jack's home and meets his grandmother. They talk about Jack, and she explains that Jack's parents were involved in illegal activities and later became sick, which led to them being taken away. She took Jack in because she believes he is a good boy at heart. She then asks Henry to read Jack's diary to better understand what he has been writing and thinking. Henry is surprised when he learns that Jack works after college. Jack's grandmother explains that he used to work every night at a Chinese restaurant and has recently started working at a boxing gym. She says Jack works hard because he does not want to become lazy, but she is deeply worried about him. Henry then explains why he came to their house. He tells her that Jack has received a scholarship and hands it to her. Overjoyed, she smiles with relief, happy that Jack's future might finally change. Henry stays for a while and helps her with small chores around the house. The scene then shifts to a boxing gym where MMA fighters train inside the ring, preparing for upcoming fights. The boxer Jack was ordered to drug is training intensely. Zion, one of Jian Ying's workers, reminds Jack to do his task. Nervous but pressured, Jack opens a water bottle, mixes the substance into it, and hands it to the boxer. However, Jack is caught in the act. When he tries to blame Cian, it is already too late. The fighters beat him and lock him inside a metal locker. Sometime later, Henry arrives at the venue and asks the fighters if they have seen one of his students. They mock him and rudely tell him to leave. Suddenly, Jack's voice echoes from inside the locker, shouting that he is trapped. Realizing the truth, Henry's expression hardens. Without hesitation, Henry attacks the men. Using his strength and speed, he overpowers them one by one with ease. When the fighters inside the ring rush in to join the fight, the situation becomes far more intense. Even then, Henry stays calm. He dodges their attacks and grabs a metal rod, striking back with precision and knocking out one of the most dangerous fighters. Surrounded by the remaining men, Henry continues to fight efficiently, refusing to back down as the battle rages on. Meanwhile, Jack watches everything from inside the locker. After taking down the fighters, Henry finally unlocks it and frees him. Jack is stunned. He never imagined that his teacher would risk everything and fight for him. Just as expected, Henry continues overpowering the fighters with ease, revealing his incredible strength and skill. However, the situation suddenly shifts when the main MMA fighter steps in. He attacks Henry with brutal force, pushing him back again and again and making it difficult for Henry to respond. Still, Henry refuses to fall. As the fight moves into the locker room, Henry quickly searches around and finds something that temporarily blinds the fighter. Unable to see clearly, the fighter loses his advantage, and Henry begins to turn the fight around. The wrestler grows furious as he fails to land a single clean hit. With a final burst of strength, he slams Henry hard onto the ground. The crowd erupts in cheers, believing the fight is over. The fighter raises his arms in celebration. Suddenly, without warning, he collapses and faints. Panic spreads as people rush to call an ambulance. The story then cuts to the police station and the hospital. Henry lies in a hospital bed receiving treatment, while Jack is questioned by the police. The doctor is shocked to discover a bullet mark on Henry's back and jokes that teaching has become far more dangerous these days. During the interrogation, Jack tells the police that Jian was the one who ordered him to drug the boxer. At first, Jian refuses to accept the blame, but when the police insist on bringing him to the station for questioning, he quickly changes his mind. He agrees to take responsibility, believing it will cause less trouble than having officers show up at his home or the MMA locker room. The police then ask Jack to come with them to the station and explain that someone can bail him out. Jack refuses, saying he does not want his only grandmother to find out about what happened. When the officers ask who can post bail, Henry suddenly steps forward and says that he will. When they ask who he is, Henry calmly replies that he is Jack's class teacher. Henry then speaks to Jack, reminding him how hard his grandmother works and how he must also take responsibility for his own life. Hearing this, Jack feels relieved and hopeful. He asks if he can return to school soon. Henry smiles and agrees. Jack is allowed to rejoin the school starting the next day. With a wide smile on his face, Jack runs to his grandmother and begins helping her with her work. News of a man defeating a professional MMA fighter soon spreads across television channels. Henry becomes famous as the teacher who risked everything to save his student. The reports also reveal that he is a former military officer and a graduate of the very same university where he now teaches. As his fame grows, Henry earns the respect of students throughout the school. They look at him with admiration, amazed by how skilled and extraordinary he is. The story then shifts into a flashback, showing Henry's childhood. It reveals that Henry was once a very naughty college student. He loved pulling pranks and causing trouble, During one school event, he even threw balloons at a student who was playing the piano in front of parents. Later, Henry gets into a fight with that same student. In the struggle, he accidentally breaks the boy's finger. The moment he sees the boy in pain, Henry freezes and immediately stops fighting. The principal orders everyone to help the injured student. The flashback continues with the hostile caretaker explaining Henry's past. He says Henry was a troublemaker who was eventually dismissed from school. It is revealed that Henry was expelled because he accidentally broke another student's finger. He had no parents, and his aunt was his only guardian. She tells the principal that she plans to take Henry to the United States and do everything she can to support him. The principal advises her to enroll Henry in a military school instead, believing that strict discipline could help him learn responsibility and guide him onto the right path. Angry and emotional, Aunt shouts at Henry, telling him to be grateful that the principal did not call the police and allowed him to leave without further trouble. Later, the principal speaks to Henry privately and encourages him to do well in the U.S. military, saying he believes Henry can still become a good man. Back in the present, when the students learn about Henry's military past, they grow curious and wonder why he left the military to become a teacher. The story then shows Henry joining the military. At first, he believes war exists to create peace, but over time, he realizes that war only brings destruction and suffering. A brutal battle unfolds, with soldiers from different nations fighting each other. A powerful explosion follows, taking many lives. Children and newborn babies are left homeless and helpless among the ruins. Witnessing this, Henry is deeply shaken. No matter how hard he tries, he continues to see innocent lives being sacrificed for no real reason. This forces him to question the true meaning of life. Unable to bear it any longer, Henry decides to leave the military. He cancels his U.S. military visa and sets out to rediscover the world. He travels to many places, watching how people live, hoping to understand what life truly means. During his travels, Henry writes letters to his old principal, sharing everything he has seen and learned. The principal writes back, offering guidance and encouragement. Eventually, Henry receives a recommendation letter from him, marking the end of his journey across East and West, as he has explored the world and prepared for the next chapter of his life. While traveling, Henry notices an eagle soaring high in the sky. No matter how far it flies, it always returns to the same place to raise its next generation. Watching this, Henry realizes something profound. The person who had wanted him to leave Hong Kong didn't do it because they had given up on him. They wanted him to find his own path and grow on his own. Henry finally returns to see his principal, who is now sitting in a wheelchair. The principal asks if he has decided to come back to teaching. Henry, unsure, sits on a bridge, drinking a beer and thinking deeply. After a moment of reflection, he finally makes his decision. He will return to school. Back at Tok Chi Secondary, Henry is greeted with admiration and praise. The students treat him like a celebrity, asking for selfies and autographs, while even the teachers are impressed, inviting him to lunch. When Henry enters his classroom, all the students give him their full attention, jokingly calling him their boss. He notices an apple on his desk and asks who left it there. It turns out Mrs. Mia had put it there. Smiling at her gesture, Henry begins to focus on teaching, and for the first time in a long while, everyone in the class is fully engaged. The students work hard for the upcoming exams, enjoying his lessons, and Henry enjoys teaching them just as much. Jack returns to school, and Jen offers to study with him for the exams. Jack is surprised but agrees, and their classmates are happy to see him reintegrating. Later, the school holds a farewell party, where everyone enjoys themselves. During this time, Mrs. Mia and Henry grow closer. She often approaches him and even invites him to dinner, which he accepts. Mia is visibly happy and blushes, while the students watch in surprise and amusement, noticing their teacher's budding relationship. Meanwhile, the group of 5 students begins to improve steadily. They focus on their studies, refine their skills, and grow more responsible and confident. One day, they meet on the terrace to talk about their futures. Danan says she wants to become a go-kart racer, and the others share their dreams. When it is Jack's turn, he announces that he wants to become a teacher. The group bursts out laughing, surprised by his answer. However, not everything is perfect. Bruce, who has developed a pill addiction, struggles deeply. While Henry had escaped his pain through video games, Bruce turned to drugs, which interfere with his studies. When the mock examinations begin, everyone else performs well, but Bruce cannot focus and scores extremely poorly. When his friends and brother ask about his results, Bruce lies, claiming his marks are similar to theirs. In reality, he scores only 8 marks on the test. He goes to the library to study, but his mind is clouded and he cannot concentrate. Henry notices him and asks what he is doing. Seeing Bruce's struggle, Henry promises to help him, reassuring him that he is not alone and that improvement is possible. As time passes, Bruce sinks deeper into depression. His smile slowly fades, and the weight inside him keeps growing. One morning, as Chris leaves for school, Bruce meets him with an unusually cheerful smile. He hugs him, says goodbye, and wishes him luck. Chris doesn't realize that this goodbye feels different. The moment Chris leaves, Bruce walks back into his room and breaks down. Tears stream down his face as he struggles to breathe through the pain. Unable to handle the darkness anymore, Bruce steps onto the balcony and jumps. He is rushed to the hospital in critical condition and soon falls into a coma. At the hospital, Chris and their father learn the truth for the first time. Bruce's drug addiction, his suffering, and how serious everything had become. They are left shattered by guilt and regret. Soon, the media gets involved. News channels begin blaming the school and Henry for what happened to Bruce. Fingers are pointed, stories are twisted, and Henry becomes the target. Mrs. Mia tries to speak with the principal, hoping he will stand up for Henry, but he coldly tells her that there is nothing he can do. Still, Mia knows in her heart that Henry is not at fault. Meanwhile, Henry is called in for questioning. Officials interrogate him, accusing him of failing his student. They demand explanations. Henry listens quietly and then responds calmly. He says that teachers guide students, but they cannot control every outcome. He reminds them that many student suicides happen every year despite efforts by teachers and schools. But the officials refuse to listen. They insist that Henry must be responsible. Without hesitation, the education board decides to revoke Henry's teaching license, holding him accountable for Bruce's condition. One day, the students notice Henry's motorbike parked near the school. Their faces light up, believing that he has returned. Excited, they rush to the faculty room, only to find it empty. Confused and worried, they run downstairs. They spot Henry walking away from the school. The students shout his name and beg him to stop. Henry turns back, smiles gently, and tells them to return to their classrooms. No matter how much they plead, he keeps walking. Even when they try to follow him, he never turns back. The principal and other teachers watch in shock. The once notorious students now stand quietly, respectful, and broken, showing how deeply Henry had changed them. Unable to hold back their emotions, the students start crying on the road. Mrs. Mia watches helplessly, her heart heavy with pain. Seeing Henry leave feels unbearable. After a moment, the students gather together and begin discussing what they can do to bring Henry back. Mia finally speaks to them. She tells them that many people believe he is not a good teacher. She says that proving otherwise is now in their hands. If they truly respect him, they must show it through their actions. They must study harder than ever and give their best in the exams. She tells them not to feel broken, not to feel weak, and not to let others look down on them. If they succeed, they won't just prove Henry's worth, they will prove their own. Later, a tense parent-teacher meeting is held. The room buzzes with anger. Parents are furious, pointing fingers at the teachers, claiming they have failed in their duties. They demand to know why Henry wasn't stopped, questioning whether any of the other teachers are even remotely competent. The atmosphere is heavy with blame and frustration. Suddenly, the principal steps forward. His voice cuts through the chaos, calm yet firm. He asks the parents to stay and at least hear what Mrs. Mia has to say. He signals Patrick to back him up, silently implying that if the system continues to punish what is right, he might step away from education entirely. A hush falls over the room. Finally, the parents listen. Mrs. Mia speaks passionately, explaining how the education system should nurture and guide students, not just punish them. Her words resonate. The principal recalls Henry's own words from the past, how teaching should truly be about belief, care, and guiding students toward their potential. Slowly, he begins to understand Henry's vision. Inspired, the students double their efforts. They study with determination, determined to prove to the education board just how extraordinary Henry is. Even the English teacher joins in, tutoring them at home, confident that he can help them succeed. Meanwhile, Jack trains relentlessly. Even in the pouring rain, he studies under a small shelter, with only a single light to illuminate his books. He wakes early, runs miles every morning and evening, and hones his focus and stamina, determined to rise to the challenge. Each student in the group of 5 pushes themselves to the limit, determined to succeed. News reporters catch wind of the story. Headlines declare that the future of Takchi Secondary depends entirely on how these students perform. Far away, Jian celebrates with his dealer, the man who wanted him to buy the school's land. But seeing the students' hard work, Jian realizes he must act to disrupt their plans. He orders his worker to track down Henry's number. The next day, strange messages arrive for all the students. They are summoned to meet in their classroom. Excited but cautious, the students rush to the school, only to find that Henry is nowhere to be found. As the students gather together in the classroom, a tense silence falls. Should they head to the exam hall and take the test on their own, or wait for Mr. Henry? Time is running out, and the uncertainty gnaws at them. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Henry is packing his backpack, preparing to go somewhere. His phone suddenly buzzes with multiple messages, and a flicker of a knowing smile crosses his face. Something important is about to happen. Meanwhile, at the school, Jian storms into the classroom with an air of authority. His presence alone makes the students freeze. He announces coldly that from now on, everything is under his control and everything happening in the school is his doing. He corrals the students into a room, confiscates their mobile phones, and traps them inside. To further assert his dominance, he begins smashing school furniture. One student half-joke about fighting back, only to immediately sink back into his seat, realizing the danger of even speaking up. At that moment, Henry arrives. His eyes catch Jack's purse lying on the ground. Sensing trouble, dashes through the school, following the commotion. When he reaches the classroom, instinctively he grabs a basketball and hurls it straight at one of the men's faces, creating just enough distraction to give them a chance. Meanwhile, Henry engages the men alone. Outnumbered but undaunted, he moves with lightning precision, neutralizing them one by one. Amid the chaos, he shouts instructions to the students, urging them to run to their exams immediately. As they dash toward the hall, a few of the men pursue them. Without missing a beat, Henry shoots arrows toward their backs, pinning them down, and tosses Jack his admit card so he can run straight to the exam. Henry then turns back, ready to take on the attackers. It is there that Jian steps forward, hurling objects and chemicals toward him, taunting, "Come on, Henry. Break another finger if you can." Henry freezes for a heartbeat. Memories flood back. Years ago, he was a taekwondo champion and had been his runner-up. Jian had also been a prodigious piano player, but during their past fight, Henry had unintentionally broken Jian's hand. That injury had shattered Jian's chance at a major music competition. Jian never played the piano again, and he had blamed Henry for the destruction of his dreams. Henry tries to reason with Jian, explaining the truth, but Jian refuses to listen. He attacks with ferocious strength. The students of F6B, meanwhile, run past the chaos, racing to the exam hall. Henry initially gains the upper hand, but Jian fights back with a ferocity fueled by years of anger. The classroom becomes a battlefield. Each move is sharp, deliberate, and punishing. He seizes Henry and ties him to the classroom chairs, thinking he has won. But Henry, ever resourceful, slides out from between the chairs, spinning Jian's momentum against him. With a sudden slam, he drives Jian's back into the tables. Pain and rage flash across both their faces. The fight escalates further. Jian pulls a knife and slashes at Henry, leaving a deep cut. Henry's eyes narrow. He goes fully serious. The two engage in a brutal struggle, both desperate to gain control of the knife. Jian screams, his voice echoing through the chaos. In today's world, everything is about money and power. Nothing can be achieved without them. Henry, focused and calm amid the fury, seizes the knife from Jian's hand. Suddenly, the tables have turned. Henry now has the upper hand. For a fleeting moment, he could end it all, but he stops himself. Instead, he tosses the knife against the wall with precise force. Jian lunges forward, weaving through overturned tables, desperate to grab the knife. But Henry doesn't panic. Step by step, he approaches Jian, his gaze steady. "I've been looking for you," Henry says quietly, "because I know I owe you an apology." Jian throws the knife aside. Without another word, he walks away, leaving Jian to reconcile with himself. Meanwhile, the students finally reach the exam hall, arriving just in time. The exam begins. Elsewhere, Jian sits at a piano, tentatively at first, and begins to play. Jack receives a letter at home. His face lights up as he runs to show his grandmother. She opens it and gasps in joy. It says they are finally getting their own house. Tears of happiness fill her eyes. At the same time, policemen approach Zufa with exciting news. His new song will soon be published. His heart races with anticipation. Elsewhere, Danan shares a meal with her family. Her father surprises her with a gift, a driving license and a car, finally giving her the freedom to chase her dream. She smiles, a mix of disbelief and joy shining in her eyes. Meanwhile, Bruce slowly wakes from his coma. He wakes. With Chris and their father by his side, he learns to walk again. The sunlight of hope returns to his life. Finally, officials from the education board visit Takchi Secondary School. The principal anxiously asks if they will continue funding the school for the next year. At first, the officials apologize, explaining that the Education Bureau had initially rejected their application. The tension is palpable. Everything the students and teachers worked for hangs in the balance. The principal opens the letter with a heavy heart, expecting more bad news. But as he reads, his eyes widen in astonishment. The school hasn't just secured its funding, They've been granted an extra 20% for the next year. Relief floods the room, and a smile slowly spreads across his face. Takchi Secondary is safe, and its future is bright. The new school year begins, and once again, Henry steps into the classroom of F6B, a notorious, unruly class that has challenged every teacher before him.